under various names: Operation 40, Operation Mongoose, Alpha 66, and several others. But the Cuban Missile Crisis changed everything, and most of all, it changed John Kennedy.
In October of 1962, the world was brought to the brink of nuclear war when Kennedy was told that the Russians were building nuclear missiles in Cuba 90 miles off American shores. Kennedy announced that the U.S. would stop all Russian ships headed towards Cuba. The Russians announced that they would not be stopped in international waters by U.S. ships. Both sides prepared for war.
At the very moment that the world teetered on the brink of nuclear disaster, against Kennedy's specific orders, the CIA sent a U-2 spy plane flying into Russian airspace, which could easily have been mistaken for a bomber getting ready for a first strike. Right in the middle of this critical period, as both sides prepared for full-scale nuclear war against Kennedy's specific orders, the CIA instigated attacks upon Cuba by their anti-Castro Cuban paramilitaries. These insane attempts by the CIA to provoke a nuclear holocaust changed Kennedy fundamentally. He caught a glimpse into the souls of his adversaries, and he spoke of them as having a collective death wish for the world. The missile crisis ended when the Russians agreed to dismantle their missiles in Cuba. However, Khrushchev, the Russian leader, insisted that these CIA training bases be dismantled and that the Russians be allowed to verify this with inspections. Kennedy ordered these secret training bases closed, but many of the groups were openly defiant, refused to close the bases, and talked about murdering Kennedy. Kennedy ordered Hoover to locate these training bases and shut them down. Hoover was forced by Kennedy to go head-to-head with the CIA. Although no arrests were made, Hoover located the camps and shut them down. The question remains, how did Hoover locate these camps? Their location was secret even to the President of the United States. It's a very relevant question. We have seen a substantial amount of evidence that Oswald was an FBI agent. He was seen at the training camp in Lake Pontchartrain, Louisiana, by the secretary of the former FBI agent who ran the camps. This camp was raided and shut down days after Oswald visited there. Raiding and shutting down these camps was a highest priority operation of the FBI. These circumstances suggest that Oswald was, in fact, Hoover's most important agent in the field. So that on November 22nd, Hoover not only learned that the CIA had murdered the President of the United States, but that they had framed his top agent, Lee Harvey Oswald, as the lone assassin for the murder. This news sent a very direct and very personal message to Hoover from the CIA. Mess with us and you die. This is the message that J. Edgar Hoover received from the CIA the day of the assassination, and this memo is a record Hoover made of his response to that message. The memo says that Hoover was asked to investigate the, quote, misguided anti-Castro Cubans, unquote, to see if they were planning any raids. But the CIA had been helping these misguided anti-Castro groups to conduct unauthorized raids against Cuba on a regular basis for years, until, on Kennedy's orders, Hoover's men began to raid the camps and shut them down. These camps were sponsored by the same agency that Kennedy had been fighting since his first day in office, the CIA. And now, with Kennedy dead at the hands of these misguided anti-Castro members of Operation 40, Hoover is asked to give a report on Kennedy's killers to their CIA sponsors. Now you have to make some effort to appreciate this situation. Oswald had infiltrated the CIA's Operation 40. Marita Loren says that Oswald was in the room with Hunt as he was passing out the money. Oswald was reporting to Hoover, so Hoover knew that the misguided anti-Castro Cubans were working with Hunt and helped to kill the president. On the other hand, when Hoover shut down the CIA secret terrorist training camps, the CIA figured out that Oswald was a rat, so they knew that Hoover knew. And yet, according to the memo, the CIA asks Hoover to tell them what he knows about the misguided anti-Castro Cubans. Why?
You, sitting there. Come on, think about it. Why does the CIA ask Hoover to tell them what he knows about their dirty laundry? When it's their dirty laundry, they got it dirty. Are they expecting to learn something about their own operations? I don't think so. Is it to find out how much Hoover knows? Because they already know that he knows everything about their dirty laundry. Then why do they ask him? Why? Remember that Bush called the FBI the day of the assassination? He told them that he was in the Dallas area, and then he got in a plane and flew to Washington? If he really wanted information on the anti-Castro Cubans, why didn't he go to Miami and talk to the FBI agents who were actually involved in investigating the Cubans? If he wanted to hear it from headquarters, why didn't he just call? And he already knew the answer to the question, so why did he go to all this trouble? There's something going on here. What? These are important questions. If you want to try to understand the world you live in, you can't just shrug them off. Science and criminal justice say that you have to come up with a better explanation than me, or else you have to accept my explanation. And my answer is pretty ugly. It seems to me that the CIA asking the FBI about their own dirty laundry is like the wife-beater asking his wife to explain how a strange woman's panties got under the front seat of his car. You know I'm guilty, says the wife-beater. Here's the evidence, says the wife-beater. I know that you know, says the wife-beater. Say the wrong thing. Go ahead, and you're dead. In asking this question, the CIA is totally punking Hoover. They're asking him, are you a little bitch who knows his place, who knows who's boss? Are you going to beg for mercy and tell us the lie we want to hear, or what? Or what? There's another good question. If Hoover grovels like he's supposed to, everything is fine. But what if he doesn't? What if he stands up and says, look, I've got the goods on you Nazi bastards, and me and my best friend Lyndon Johnson are going to take you down? You never know. Hoover didn't join the Nazis in 1942. He went after them. It's obvious that these guys don't know for sure what Hoover's going to say, or they wouldn't have to get on a plane and flying to Washington to ask. So now, here they are in Washington. But what are they supposed to do if Hoover gives the wrong answer? How hard a question is that? They just whacked the president the day before, so answer it. What are they going to do if they get the wrong answer? Are they just going to shoot him in the head right there in the FBI headquarters? Well, here's a hint.
The CIA had developed a pistol that shoots a dart made of ice. The dart contains a drug that gives the victim a heart attack. The ice dart goes into the body, melts, and the only evidence of a murder having been committed is a small pinprick left by the entry of the dart.
But also the toxin itself would not appear in the autopsy?
Yes, so that there was no way of perceiving that the target was him.
These thugs probably had such guns in their pocket. If Hoover gave the wrong answer, these two guys would kill him. Hoover told these thugs how the FBI investigation showed that the anti-Castro Cubans living in Miami loved Kennedy and were deeply saddened by his death. In fact, anti-Castro Cubans all over Miami were celebrating Kennedy's murder. But don't underestimate Hoover. Hoover was a master of intelligence. When he destroyed the Black Panthers for Richard Nixon, the head of security for the Panthers was an FBI agent. When Hoover destroyed the Communist Party for Eisenhower, the man in charge of the party's own membership list was an FBI agent. And he certainly got the goods on the Nazi collaborators in this country. Remember that Hoover busted Prescott Bush, the president's grandfather, as a Nazi collaborator and seized his bank. So what does Hoover do when this son of a Nazi bitch comes to threaten him? He writes this memo, that's what he does, creating a written record of George Bush's role in the assassination, and hiding it in plain sight in a memo to the director of CIA. This memo deserves the close attention we've been giving it. You see, even with a CIA secret weapon in your hand, killing Hoover in his own office is an enormously risky project. Who would do such a thing? That's really pretty easy. The men who were so involved in the assassination that it was less dangerous for them to murder Hoover than to let Hoover conduct a real investigation of JFK's murder. This memo then strongly suggests